It's the 19th of August 1743. A new baby is born in France.
Push. It's a girl. What's her name?
Her name is Jeanne.
You are beautiful, Jeanne. I wonder what you will be when you grow up.
She's going to be a mistress.
Did you say mistress?
Did I say mistress? Of course not. I said seamstress.
Jeanne Becu is the illegitimate daughter of Anne Becu. Born in the small town of Vaucouleurs in France, her fate seems to be already defined. She came from a poor family. Her mother is a seamstress, and her father's identity was unknown, but there were rumors that he was a friar. Later on, she will call herself Jeanne Vaubernier, after the name of her rumored father. Despite the lack of money, the unique inheritance that her mother passed on to her is a dazzling beauty. A face with fine features and eyes between blue and purple that make all men dream. When Jeanne was a child, her mom met a wealthy merchant named Billard du Monceau, who she may have had a relationship with. With his help, Jeanne and her mom moved to Paris. Jeanne went to a convent school, where she learned how to read and write, as well as mathematics, philosophy, music, and arts. In this school, Jeanne developed her skills in drawing and a love for fine art. She also reads Voltaire and Shakespeare.
Look what I got. Isn't that book prohibited here? Exciting, isn't it?
By the age of 15, Jeanne will leave the convent. After her education, Jeanne worked as an apprentice hairdresser. Her mentor was a man named Lametz. Back in the 18th century, many aristocrats used to pay loads of money to have their hair elegantly styled. After spending a lot of time together, Lametz fell in love with Jeanne and spent a lot of his money on her. This made his mother angry. Later on, Jeanne found a job as a caretaker of a wealthy widower, Madame de la Garde.
Madam, you have a visitor.
My son, I didn't know you were visiting me.
Not you. I'm visiting John.
Have you no shame? Ah, my other son.
Hello, John.
John, you're fired.
Tensions rose in the house as the two married sons of Madame de la Garde fell in love with Jeanne. There were rumors that even one of her sons' wives liked her. The fashion industry at that time was already very popular in France. Jeanne worked in a fashion house called Maison Labiche, and this gave her the opportunity to get acquainted with the French aristocracy. In 1759, Jeanne will write to her mother.
I'm sure we won't always be poor. And if I can become rich, you will be too.
When she was 19, one of her lovers was Count Jean-Baptiste Dubarry, a noble from Toulouse. He was a man without principles. He made money from military contracts, and his house was full of high-class prostitutes. He took Jeanne with him, and she immediately became the most popular among the courtesans for the nobles.
Is it just me? Or she's really the most beautiful woman in this house?
So what?
I got an idea. Our King Louis XV is alone and his wife just died. His favorite Madame de Pompadour is also dead.
So you want to introduce John to the king?
Wouldn't it be great? This is my chance to gain influence in the French court.
Your Majesty, you look lonely.
It's been difficult since my favorite mistress died. I will always remember you, my dear Madame de Pompadour.
And how about Marie and Louis, Your Majesty?
Who?
Your wife and your son.
Ah, yes, I also miss them. Oh, my darling Madame de Pompadour. Wow, who is this young lady?
It was custom for that period for kings to have a mistress, mainly because the marriage was not for love and admiration. It was purely for political reasons. The favorite was the closest person to the king, and can profoundly influence his decisions. Jean-Baptiste Dubarry and Labelle, the first valet of the king, arranged for Jeanne and the king to meet.
His Majesty, the King, wants to see John.
That's impossible. Look, I'm low-born and unmarried.
You shut up. From now on, you are my sister-in-law. This is my sister-in-law, Comtesse Dubarry. She has not been presented yet to the king. I believe it's against the court's protocol, right?
Don't worry about that. She will visit Versailles and have dinner with Baron de Gonesse.
Who the hell is Baron de Gonesse?
It's the king himself, and you will pretend that you don't recognize him.
Hello, my lady. I'm very happy to see you. I am Baron de Gonesse.
You look familiar?
Do I?
Yes, you look like my next lover.
It was love at first sight. Due to the king's disguise, Jeanne Becu talked and laughed free from any restraint, and her frankness impressed the king.
Look at those curves, Labelle. This girl is so beautiful.
And that's not even the best part.
What?
She's only 25 and she likes you very much. In fact, she's staying in Versailles tonight.
Later on, Jeanne Becu, now known as Madame Dubarry, will be repeatedly invited to Versailles. The king will spend a lot of time with her. Madame du Barry will eventually tell the king that she knew who he really was the first time they met. She will have her own apartment in Versailles, and they will continue to meet discreetly.
Madame du Barry is so amazing. She did things to me? How do I say this? She gave me an enjoyment that is quite new to me. If you know what I mean.
That's because you've never been to a brothel.
I'd like her to become my official favorite.
However, there was a bit of a problem. One of the ladies in court, hoping to be the next mistress of the king, became jealous of Jeanne. She made an investigation and found out she was not the sister-in-law of Count du Barry, but just an ordinary peasant.
She is very pretty. I like her. That should be enough.
I heard she's a prostitute and unmarried.
Oops.
Is this true?
No. I would say, it's not false.
What?
Relax. I have a plan.
Jean-Baptiste du Barry can't marry her, as he already has a wife.
Hey brother, you see that woman over there?
Who is she?
Your future wife.
What?
Listen, you're fat and lazy. This is your best offer.
But I don't know her at all.
You really need to know the person you're going to marry? That doesn't make sense.
At least, she's pretty.
She's going to be the king's mistress.
Wait a minute. The king will be shagging my wife?
Sort of?
That doesn't make sense.
No, you don't make sense.
No, you don't make sense.
Only titled married noble women can become a mistress.
Okay.
So Jeanne Becu and Guillaume du Barry got married, and she's now officially a noblewoman that can be presented to the king. On the 22nd of April 1769, the king officially presented Madame du Barry to the court. She is now the mistress and tighter, a title reserved for the king's favorite. Being a king's favorite in France at that time was something big. The favorite is the equivalent of the first lady for France. And especially in this case where the king is a widower, the favorite is almost a queen.
Who are those?
They are the daughters of the king, madam.
I want all of them. Out of Versailles.
The French court didn't like Jeanne. Sure, she gained the title of a noblewoman, but she was nothing more than a scrap from the back streets of Paris. Another woman is on the horizon. The nephew of the king and heir to the throne, Louis XVI, married Marie Antoinette of Habsburg-Lorraine, the Archduchess of Austria. When Marie Antoinette arrived in Versailles, there were immediate sparks between the two. The court protocol prohibits Madame du Barry from saying anything to someone who is higher in rank, which means that she is not allowed to initiate a conversation with Marie Antoinette. Madame du Barry must wait until Marie Antoinette addresses her before they can have any kind of conversation. This rule was likely in place to maintain hierarchy and respect for rank within the royal court.
Are the rumors about her true? That she's not noble at all, but instead comes from the poor people?
It can be, Your Majesty. She is manipulating the king. She dictates his decisions.
What does she do in court?
What else? She gives pleasure to the king?
Shameless.
That's not the worst part.
What is?
Let's just say she has a special talent. While you
Don't you dare say it.
cannot make the royal baguette happy.
Marie Antoinette stubbornly refused to talk to Madame du Barry in any way possible, greatly annoying the king. This was a big deal at that time. Going against the court etiquette by not talking to the chief mistress is like sending a message that she was challenging the king's decisions. However, Madame du Barry is not how Marie Antoinette describes her. She sends letters to Voltaire, who admires her for her vehemence and sensitivity. As the king's favorite, Madame du Barry was showered with all kinds of lavish gifts that matched her expensive taste. However, despite Madame du Barry's extravagant expensive lifestyle, she has a good heart. What she really asked from the king was to free many women from jail who were wrongly accused. She was known for saving people from executions and begging the king to spare lives.
I have a present for you, my lady.
What is it?
A castle.
Madame du Barry will beautify the Louvancian castle Louis XV gave to her by calling great artists and architects like Ange-Jacques Gabriel. The painters will paint her as the most beautiful woman in the world. However, Marie Antoinette and the minister Etienne François de Choiseul organized a smear campaign against Madame du Barry, publishing some pornographic material where she was the main character. The youngest daughter of the king, Marie-Louise, is shocked. She decided to become a cloistered nun in order to atone for the sins of her father.
Enough is enough. You're fired. Get out of here. And also, I want to speak to your mother.
Louis XV started sending letters to the Empress of Austria, Maria Theresa.
Hey! I demand you order your daughter to speak to Madame du Barry.
Marie Antoinette's refusal to talk to Madame du Barry became a serious issue that threatened Austrian-French relations. the Empress Maria Theresa ordered Marie Antoinette to speak to Madame du Barry in order to avoid an international crisis.
There are a lot of people tonight in Versailles.
Those few words will be the only ones that Marie Antoinette will ever tell Madame du Barry. However, now that the future queen chats with her, she is now fully recognized at court. It was the 1st of January 1772, and for Madame du Barry, that was maybe her biggest victory. Now that the Cold War between them has ended, everything seems to go better. Madame du Barry's life at court became peaceful and beautiful as ever. However, on the 10th of May 1774, King Louis XV died of smallpox, and Louis XVI was crowned king.
You know what this means?
In a few months, the new king and the new queen ordered Madame du Barry to go away from Versailles. But first, they tell the guards to arrest her for a short time. She still has the Louvainsian castle where she retired. Madame du Barry is still beautiful. Before dying, Voltaire wants to see her. Even Joseph II, brother of Marie Antoinette and future Emperor of Austria, deviates from his visit to Versailles to meet Madame du Barry in secret. He was curious to see who was the woman that was ruling France, and also wanted to annoy his sister. For about 10 years, nothing really happened. But then the famous French Revolution started in 1789. Madame du Barry sides with the nobles, and even if the king is captured, she still offers her services to the court. Marie Antoinette will send a letter to thank her. The revolutionaries don't like Madame du Barry.
She betrayed us. She became one of them. She chose to side with the rich people, who wasted our money on their useless vices, while we are left starving.
In her castle, Madame du Barry keeps all the jewels the king gave to her, for a total value in today's money of $65 million.
These can be useful to bribe some revolutionaries, in case they come here.
However, on the night between the 10th and the 11th of January 1791, Madame du Barry was not at home. A few thieves, thanks to the help of a servant of the castle, broke into the castle through a window and stole all the jewels and the diamonds. The next day, the investigation started. With interrogations and researches, Madame du Barry publishes an announcement where she offers money to whoever will be able to find the jewels. After a month, a mysterious magistrate in London found the jewels. Between 1791 and 1793, John goes to London 4 times. However, the magistrate, Nathaniel Parker IV, a British secret agent, does everything possible to not give back the jewels. The thieves, captured in the UK, cannot be brought back to France as there was no extradition at that time, so they are freed to go, while Parker IV kept the jewels. On the 1st of February 1793, after the decapitation of Louis XVI, France and the UK were officially at war. Any French activity done in any British territory is considered treason. In the meantime, in France, there is terror. All the properties of the nobles are confiscated, including Louvainsian Castle.
Hey, what are you doing?
We are confiscating the castle.
Okay.
Wait a minute, are you Madame du Barry?
Of course not.
Her travels in the UK became an excuse to condemn her.
So, you traveled quite a few times to the UK recently?
I know why. You were helping the thieves to escape.
No, I was only trying to retrieve my jewels.
You plotted a fake theft. To secure your wealth and avoid paying the tax.
Genius. Why didn't I think about that?
Shut up, Gaston. In there, you also supported the counter-revolution.
What? No.
On the 22nd of August, Madame du Barry is escorted to the prison of Sainte-Pélagie in Paris, and at the beginning of December she is sentenced to death. As a last humiliation, she will be brought to the guillotine in a farm wagon.
Please, monsieur. Just one moment. Just one moment.
The jewels will be sold in London, piece by piece, for just a little money in an auction in 1795.